1948, the War of Independence. Fierce battles have been raging in Jerusalem for almost a year. For 3 months, the city has been under siege. The battle for the city and the roads leading up to it is the most decisive campaign of the war. The newly formed IDF is fighting against regular troops of the Jordanian army. The IDF forces managed to break the siege and connect the city to the rest of the country. The Jewish quarter of the old city falls into Jordanian hands, despite the heroic resistance of its handful of defenders. A third of all the casualties in the war, a total of 2,009 dead, fall in the battle for Jerusalem. The results of the battle are not decisive. At the end of the fighting, the Jordanian commander, Lieutenant Colonel Abdullah Attal, meets with the commander of the Jerusalem region, Colonel Moshe Dayan, to discuss the ceasefire. With a wax pencil, Dayan draws the line defining the location of the Israeli troops. Abdullah Attal draws a line that delineates the location of the Jordanian troops. That was how the municipal borderline was defined. 7 kilometers bounded by strips of no man's land. Barbed wire fences, minefields, trenches, and anti-tank barricades. From Kibbutz Ramat Rachel in the south, with the Jordanian bell post adjacent to it, up to the Sanhedria neighborhood in the north, with the police cadet school and the ammunition hill post opposite from it. Two zones are defined as demilitarized under UN auspices. One of these is the High Commissioner's Palace, which serves as the UN General Headquarters in the Middle East. An Israeli agricultural training school continues to operate in the area. The other is Mount Scopus, which the Jordanians were unable to conquer in the War of Independence. The buildings of Hadassah Hospital and the Hebrew University are on Mount Scopus, and it remains a demilitarized Israeli enclave in Jordanian territory. According to the agreement, a supply convoy and troop rotation is permitted once a fortnight under UN protection and with a Jordanian military escort. The convoy leaves from the Mandelbaum Gate, the only border crossing between the two parts of the city. According to the ceasefire terms, neither side is permitted to bring heavy armaments such as tanks and artillery into the municipal boundaries of Jerusalem. The Jordanians deploy a reinforced infantry brigade in the Jerusalem area. They fortify some 270 buildings along the ceasefire lines and man positions in about 30 of them. In addition, they establish approximately 10 company positions within a few hundred meters from the municipal borderline. Opposite them, Israel fortifies some 20 buildings. One operational company, some 80 troopers, mans positions in about 10 of the buildings. 120 soldiers under the guise of police officers are stationed on Mount Scopus. The emergency reserve is based on the reservists of the Jerusalem Brigade. The Jordanians have again opened heavy fire in Jerusalem. Arab Legion snipers killed 2 Israeli civilians and a 14-year-old girl. Bloodshed is frequent along the municipal borderline and on Mount Scopus. As the years go by, more and more defensive fortifications against Jordanian sniper fire are constructed near the municipal borderline. The Jewish quarter in the old city is destroyed. The western wall, remnant of the temple, is deserted. The Jordanians do not allow access. Jerusalem is a divided city. So it was for 19 years. April 1967. Syria accuses Israel of concentrating hostile forces against her. Egypt, signatory to a defense pact with Syria, sends large troop concentrations into Sinai in the direction of the border with Israel. The Egyptians evict the UN forces from Sinai and on the 23rd of May block the Straits of Tiran to Israeli shipping to the port of Eilat. These are grounds for war. Israel attempts to find a political solution. At the same time, the IDF begins to muster its reserve forces. The brigades of the Central Command, the Jerusalem Brigade, the Harel Armored Brigade, and 55th Paratroop Brigade are also called out. The 8 regiments of the Jerusalem Brigade are deployed along the municipal borderline and in the Jerusalem corridor. The brigade's reserves, including the Armored Commando Unit and 18 tanks, are positioned at the Sataf camp near the Kastel. The Harel Armored Brigade, which includes a tank regiment and 2 armored infantry regiments, is encamped in the Ben Shemen Woods and is designated for action in the border region nearby. Reserve Paratroop Brigade, with its 3 regiments, is encamped in the Tel Nof base and designated for parachuting in Sinai. Israel begins a tense period of waiting. On the 30th of May, Jordan signs a defense alliance with Egypt. The armies of Jordan, Syria, and Egypt are now under Central Egyptian Command. Israel feels an increasingly threatening stranglehold. Many in Israel, including some of the cabinet ministers, are fearful of the results of the war. The Arab nation has sworn to purge Palestine of your presence. Pack your bags, therefore, and flee from Palestine before death reaches you. There is great concern that